On November 26, 1922, British archaeologist Howard Carter, along with Lord Carnarvon, entered a mysterious tomb that since its construction had never been touched by human hands. The moment they stepped inside, the sight that met their eyes was breathtaking. A golden light was nearly everywhere. The entire tomb was filled with a vast amount of gold, artifacts and decorations. This moment marked the beginning of a massive excavation that would last for several years, and it had officially begun. It would ultimately lead to one of the greatest discoveries in the history of archaeology, the tomb of Tutankhamun. The burial chamber was piled high with layered golden shrines, statues, and jewelry, along with weapons, garments, and countless burial goods. Tutankhamun's body was laid to rest within 3 nested coffins, with the innermost one crafted from solid gold. The outer 2 layers were made of wood, and were covered with gold and various semi-precious stones. This was the first time in human history that a royal ancient Egyptian tomb had been discovered almost completely intact. Its state of preservation was simply incredible. When Howard Carter opened the pharaoh's sarcophagus, he discovered 2 daggers lying next to Tutankhamun's mummy. One of them, worn at the abdomen, was made entirely of gold, complete with a beautiful, intricate sheath and decorations. But what truly shocked the archaeological world was the second one, an iron dagger. It, too, had an exquisite sheath and a golden hilt. You might be wondering, why is an iron dagger more significant than one made of gold? The reason is that during the Bronze Age, iron was an extremely rare material, even more precious than gold. Although ancient Egypt possessed rich mineral resources, the only metallurgical technologies they had truly mastered at the time involved copper, bronze, and gold. Mature iron smelting technology did not appear in the Nile Valley until around 1000 BCE, which was, compared to Tutankhamun's reign, at least 500 years later. And yet, the craftsmanship of this iron dagger was exceptionally high. The ancient Egyptians themselves neither understood the properties of iron, nor did they possess the technology to smelt and forge iron tools. So that raises the question: how could a Bronze Age civilization with virtually no experience with iron have possibly created such a refined and structurally perfect iron weapon? What's even more intriguing is that the ancient Egyptians never claimed to have made this dagger. Instead, they called it a gift from the gods. So, did it really come from a more advanced civilization? Otherwise, how can we explain how such sophisticated ironwork could have been created with the technology available during the Bronze Age? A physicist from France's École Polytechnique, Daniel Kamar, specializes in chemical analysis research. He points out that the biggest challenge in iron manufacturing is its extremely high melting point. It's as high as 1,538 degrees Celsius. This temperature level far exceeded the known metallurgical technology of ancient Egypt at the time, and what they were capable of achieving. Because of this, early civilizations simply couldn't heat ore to a temperature high enough to smelt iron, nor could they forge iron into weapons. It's precisely because of this dagger's existence that some researchers, especially those who believe in highly advanced prehistoric civilizations or theories of ancient extraterrestrial visitations, have placed it on the list of so-called out-of-place artifacts. Of course, the mainstream Egyptology community couldn't accept this, the appearance of yet another out-of-place artifact, so they proposed an explanation. Of course, the mainstream Egyptology community couldn't accept this, the appearance of yet another out-of-place artifact, so they proposed an explanation. The ancient Egyptians used iron from fallen meteorites, so-called meteoric iron, and used it to craft this dagger, but this explanation has quite a few problems of its own. Historians have long pointed out that during the Bronze Age, ancient Egypt did not possess the technology to extract metal from meteorites. Even if meteorites do contain iron, this iron isn't concentrated in a single chunk but is scattered throughout the entire meteorite. Without advanced technology, it would be nearly impossible to identify, let alone extract. Even if we take a step back, assuming they really could separate iron from a meteorite, the next question is, how did they then forge this metal into such a structurally complex dagger? This process was also far beyond the technological capabilities of the time. Researchers also noted that the surface of this dagger is extremely smooth, with almost no hammer marks. The blade is precise and sharp, and shows none of the common metalworking features of that era. In 1994, scientists performed an X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy analysis on the dagger's blade. The results showed this was no ordinary meteoric iron. The alloy that makes up the blade has an extremely complex and durable composition. It's about 89% iron, with the remainder including nickel, cobalt, and chromium. The particularly high nickel content makes the blade almost completely rust-resistant. To create such an alloy would require an extremely high level of metallurgical and material science knowledge, and humanity didn't truly master that kind of capability until thousands of years later. So the question is, could this dagger be a relic left behind by an older, more advanced civilization? Or is it possible that it really came from some extraterrestrial civilization that once visited Egypt? And this dagger isn't the only anomalous discovery in Tutankhamun's tomb. An incredibly exquisite pectoral ornament was also found in the tomb, decorated with gold, silver, and various precious gems. At its center is a scarab with wings spread, crafted from a mysterious yellowish-green gemstone. Initially, archaeologists believed this gem was just ordinary chalcedony, which is a common form of quartz. But as the composition of the iron dagger's alloy sent shockwaves through the academic world, researchers began to re-examine the materials of all the burial goods in the tomb, and what they found was that this scarab was not made of ordinary quartz, but was composed of a material that, at the time, simply shouldn't have existed. Desert glass. This substance was first discovered in 1945, when humanity conducted its first nuclear test. In the New Mexico desert, the explosion created a massive crater in the ground, about 90 meters in diameter and 1.5 meters deep. The sand inside the crater was melted by the instantaneous high temperature, and upon cooling, it formed a layer of smooth, shimmering green glass. Scientists realized that to melt silica sand into glass requires temperatures exceeding about 1,650 degrees Celsius. This glass was later named trinitite. What's unsettling is that the same kind of desert glass was later found in vast quantities in the Libyan Desert of North Africa. In another one of our articles and videos, Evidence of Ancient Nuclear War, The Weapons of the Gods, we discussed multiple clues, including the results of chemical analysis, that point to a highly controversial conclusion, that in ancient history, nuclear explosions may have occurred. This possibility is chilling. Events on the scale of a nuclear blast might have happened, and similar evidence even exists on the surface of Mars. Just like Tutankhamun's dagger, the Libyan desert glass is also explained by mainstream science as the product of a meteorite impact. But this explanation doesn't hold water either. First, the purity of this desert glass is extremely high. If this desert glass were truly formed by a meteorite impact, then the glass should be mixed with fragments of iron and other minerals. But that's not the case. Moreover, a meteorite impact would inevitably leave a clear crater. Yet in the area where this glass was found, even with satellite imagery, no trace of an impact crater has ever been found. Another explanation suggests that lightning strikes created this desert glass. But a lightning strike can, at most, form tiny glass fragments, whereas in the Libyan desert, there exists a vast field of glass. A scale like that simply cannot be explained by lightning strikes. So, the question is the material of this pectoral ornament found in Tutankhamun's tomb, just like that iron dagger, also came from these so-called gods? Could it be that only beings with highly advanced technology could unleash the kind of immense energy needed to instantly melt a vast desert into smooth glass? If that's true, then it's easy to understand why the ancient Egyptians worshipped these gods with such devotion, becoming one of the most deeply religious civilizations in all of human history. Just think about it. If you were to encounter a group of beings who possessed technology thousands of years ahead of your own era, whose power was so immense it could only be perceived as supernatural, as otherworldly, wouldn't you also choose to stand in awe and worship them? The real question is, who were these gods? Why did they pass on all sorts of knowledge and skills to humanity, propelling the development of ancient civilizations? And where did they come from? Were they the ones responsible for the incredible megalithic structures found all over the world? Things like the pyramids of Giza, the Bosnian pyramids, Teotihuacan, and other ancient structures on a breathtaking scale. Or maybe these structures, along with the anomalous artifacts in Tutankhamun's tomb, didn't come from an alien civilization at all, but from a highly advanced ancient human civilization that once existed right here on Earth. After all, we've always just assumed that our current civilization is the most intelligent and advanced it has ever been. But a growing number of ancient artifacts and ruins seem to hint that in the distant past, there might have been a civilization whose technology and wisdom were incredibly sophisticated. They were capable of designing and constructing these engineering marvels, but ultimately they met their own self-destructs, leaving behind only these cold, magnificent ruins, lying silent in the sands of time. And it can't help but make you wonder if our own civilization is now walking down that very same path. Our technology is developing at an unprecedented pace, yet our spiritual and inner maturity seems to be in constant decline. A civilization that still relies on war and violence to solve political conflicts, is it truly ready to wield such immense technological power? Perhaps the leap in technology itself isn't what's frightening. What's frightening is when that power outpaces a civilization's own moral and spiritual capacity to handle it. And that's exactly why we hope that modern science and archaeology can approach ancient discoveries with a more open mind, instead of rushing to deny or suppress evidence that challenges our established understanding. Even if these findings shatter the historical framework we're familiar with, they deserve to be studied seriously, not simply dismissed out of hand. As the 26th President of the United States, Theodore Roosevelt, once said, "The more you know about the past, the better prepared you are for the future." And today, humanity is consuming fossil fuels on an unprecedented scale, cutting down forests and developing high-intensity agriculture, emitting massive amounts of greenhouse gases like nitrous oxide and methane, pushing the entire planet toward a climate crisis. History is never just a story, it's more like a warning written for the future.